Your food stockpile will kill you before starvation does. Right now, sitting in your pantry or storage room, are cases of freeze-dried meals you spent $2,000 accumulating. They have 25-year shelf lives printed on the packaging. They promise complete nutrition and easy preparation. And 6 months into a supply chain collapse, you'll be suffering from scurvy, beriberi, and nutritional deficiencies that turn minor infections lethal because those meals are missing critical micronutrients that cannot be freeze-dried. You will have calories. You will have full bellies. And you will be dying slowly from malnutrition because nobody told you that shelf life and nutritional completeness are not the same thing. The 11 foods I am about to reveal solve this problem completely. They never expire when stored correctly. They provide the nutritional building blocks your body actually needs. And they cost 70% less than commercial survival food while delivering superior outcomes. Drop freeze-dried in the comments if you have been stockpiling emergency meals. Drop real food if you already suspect there's a better approach. Because what comes next will either validate your strategy or completely destroy your current stockpile plans. And I need you to understand something critical before we start. This is not about doomsday prepping. This is about rational response to observable supply chain vulnerabilities that are getting worse every year. When global conflict starts, the first casualty is not soldiers. It is food distribution systems. Ukraine war disrupted 20% of global wheat exports within 60 days. Yemen blockade created famine conditions in under 3 months. Taiwan's strait closure would eliminate 60% of semiconductor and 30% of Pacific food shipping simultaneously. These are not hypothetical scenarios. These are documented patterns from recent conflicts. And if World War III starts, your local grocery store has approximately 3 days of inventory before shelves are empty. 3 days. After that, you either have food stored or you compete with desperate people for whatever remains. Let me paint a picture of what nutritional collapse actually looks like. Month 2 of a grid down or supply chain failure. Your family is eating freeze-dried meals twice daily. Calories are adequate. Nobody is hungry. But your oldest kid is developing weird bruises that do not heal. Your spouse has bleeding gums. You have joint pain and crushing fatigue that does not improve with rest. These are not random symptoms. This is scurvy. Vitamin C deficiency. It killed more sailors throughout history than combat or storms because humans cannot synthesize ascorbic acid. We must obtain it from food. And freeze-drying destroys 70 to 90% of vitamin C content. The same process that gives those meals their shelf life strips out the exact nutrients that prevent degenerated diseases. Your stockpile has become a slow-acting poison that keeps you fed while your body deteriorates. The 11 foods I am going to reveal do not have this problem. They maintain nutritional integrity for decades. They provide complete amino acid profiles, essential fatty acids, critical minerals, and vitamin precursors your body can synthesize. They require minimal processing to consume. They have multiple preparation methods. And most critically, they are based on foods that kept humans alive through famines, sieges, and collapses throughout recorded history. These are not modern inventions. These are ancestral survival foods refined through 10,000 years of trial and error. When civilizations collapsed, when wars destroyed food systems, when famines killed millions, the survivors were the ones who understood which foods actually sustain human life long-term. Food number 1 is white rice, not brown rice, not wild rice, not enriched rice. Plain white rice, specifically long-grain varieties like basmati or jasmine. You can buy 50-pound bags for $30. Stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. White rice remains nutritionally viable for 30-plus years. This is not theoretical. Researchers have tested rice stored since World War II. It remains edible and nutritious. The reason is simple chemistry. White rice has had the bran and germ removed, which eliminates the fats that go rancid. What remains is almost pure starch with some protein and minerals. It provides 400 calories per cooked cup. It is shelf-stable indefinitely in dry conditions. And it forms a caloric base that allows other foods to provide concentrated nutrition without requiring massive quantities. Here is what people misunderstand about carbohydrates in survival. Your brain requires 120 grams of glucose daily to function. Your muscles require glycogen for physical work. In crisis scenarios, you cannot afford to burn protein for energy because protein is needed for immune function, wound healing, and maintaining muscle mass. Rice provides the glucose and glycogen that spares protein for critical functions. It is metabolically efficient. It digests easily even when gut health is compromised. It combines with other foods to create complete meals. And it costs 6 cents per 100 calories, making it the most economical survival food available. The practical application is specific. You need approximately 50 pounds of white rice per person for 6 months of supplemented nutrition. That is not 50 pounds to live on exclusively. That is 50 pounds to provide the caloric base, while other foods provide protein, fats, and micronutrients. You store it in food-grade buckets with gamma seal lids. You add oxygen absorbers at the rate of 2,000 cc's per 5-gallon bucket. You label with date and contents. And you rotate stock every 5 years, not because it goes bad, but because maintaining familiarity with your food supply prevents psychological resistance during crisis consumption. But rice alone is pure carbohydrate, which brings us to food number 2, dried beans and legumes, specifically pinto beans, black beans, lentils, and split peas. You can buy these in bulk for $1 per pound. They store for 30 years in identical conditions to rice, and they provide the complementary amino acids that transform rice from incomplete to complete protein. Rice is deficient in lysine. Beans are rich in lysine but deficient in methionine. Combined in a 2-to-1 rice-to-bean ratio, you create a complete amino acid profile that matches animal protein for biological value. The biochemistry here is critical. Your body cannot synthesize 9 essential amino acids. You must obtain them from food. Incomplete proteins leave gaps that lead to muscle wasting, immune dysfunction, and edema. But beans and rice together provide all 9 in ratios your body can use efficiently. This is why this combination sustained civilizations for millennia. This is why cultures from Asia to Latin America to Africa built their food systems around grain plus legume combinations. They were not guessing. They were implementing nutritional wisdom refined over thousands of years. Beans also provide fiber that commercial survival foods completely lack. Your digestive system requires fiber to function. Without it, you develop constipation that progresses to impaction, bowel obstruction, and systemic toxicity. Freeze-dried meals are engineered for convenience and shelf life. They are not engineered for gut health. Beans provide the insoluble fiber that maintains motility and the soluble fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. This is not minor. This is the difference between maintaining digestive health and developing conditions that become medical emergencies when hospitals are not accessible. The practical storage protocol is the same as rice. Food-grade buckets, oxygen absorbers, cool, dry storage. You need approximately 25 pounds of mixed beans per person for 6 months. That is half the quantity of rice, which maintains a 2-to-1 ratio for complete protein. You also diversify varieties because different beans have different nutrient profiles. Pintos provide folate. Black beans provide anthocyanins with antioxidant properties. Lentils provide iron. Split peas provide vitamin K. Variety provides nutritional insurance against single-point deficiencies. But carbohydrates and protein mean nothing without fats. Which brings us to food number 3, coconut oil, specifically virgin coconut oil in glass jars. A gallon costs $40 and provides approximately 30,000 calories of pure fat, stored in sealed containers away from light. Coconut oil remains stable for 5+ years without refrigeration, and it provides the medium-chain triglycerides that your body can convert to energy even when carbohydrate metabolism is impaired. Here's why fats are critical and why most survival stockpiles completely miss this. Dietary fat provides 9 calories per gram compared to 4 calories per gram for carbohydrates and protein. It is energy dense, meaning you can store concentrated calories in minimal space. Fats are required for vitamin absorption. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble. Without dietary fat, you cannot absorb them even if they are present in food. Your cell membranes are made from fatty acids. Your hormones are synthesized from cholesterol. Your brain is 60% fat by dry weight. Inadequate fat intake causes hormonal collapse, cognitive impairment, and cellular dysfunction. Coconut oil specifically provides lauric acid, which has antimicrobial properties that support immune function. It provides capric and caprylic acids that are converted to ketones, giving your brain an alternative fuel source to glucose. This is why coconut oil has been a survival food in tropical regions for millennia. It does not require refrigeration in climates where other fats go rancid rapidly. It has a high smoke point for cooking. It can be used topically for wound care and skin protection. Multiple applications from a single stored resource. The storage consideration is simple. 1 gallon of coconut oil per person provides adequate fat for 6 months when combined with other fat sources. You store in glass rather than plastic to prevent chemical leaching. You keep away from direct heat and light, which accelerate oxidation. And you understand that while 5 years is a conservative shelf life, coconut oil stored properly can remain viable significantly longer if it does not develop rancid smell or taste. But oils are not the only fat source you need, which brings us to food number 4. Nuts, specifically almonds, walnuts, and peanuts stored in vacuum-sealed bags with oxygen absorbers. Nuts in shell last longer but require processing. Shelled nuts are more convenient but have shorter shelf life. The compromise is vacuum-sealed storage with oxygen removal, which extends viability to 2 to 3 years. Nuts provide fats, proteins, vitamin E, magnesium, selenium, and the psychological benefit of texture and flavor variety that prevents menu fatigue. Here is what menu fatigue does in long-term survival situations. Week 1, you are grateful for food. Week 4, you are bored but compliant. Week 8, you are experiencing appetite suppression and having to force yourself to eat adequate calories because the monotony is psychologically unbearable. This leads to underfeeding, which leads to progressive malnutrition. Even when food is available, nuts break monotony. They provide snacking options. They add texture to rice and bean meals. They keep you psychologically engaged with eating, which maintains caloric intake at necessary levels. Walnuts specifically provide omega-3 fatty acids in the form of alpha-linolenic acid. Your body converts this to EPA and DHA, which are anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective. Almonds provide vitamin E and magnesium. Peanuts provide niacin and folate. 10 pounds of mixed nuts per person provides adequate supplementation for 6 months. This is not your primary fat source. This is nutrient-dense supplementation that fills specific micronutrient gaps. Pause here. We have covered 4 foods: rice for calories, beans for protein, coconut oil for fats, nuts for micronutrients and texture. Total cost so far is approximately $150 per person. Total storage space is approximately 3 cubic feet, and we have already exceeded the nutritional completeness of $2,000 worth of freeze-dried meals. Most people quit right here because they are impatient or because this contradicts their existing beliefs. If you're still here, comment "still here" right now, because foods 5 through 11 are where we address the micronutrient gaps that separate sustained health from gradual deterioration. Food number 5 is salt. Not just any salt. Iodized sea salt or Himalayan pink salt that provides both sodium chloride and trace minerals, including iodine. You can buy a 10-pound bag for $12. It never expires, and it is the single most critical micronutrient supplement in your entire stockpile. Let me explain why with some brutal physiology. Your body loses sodium through sweat, exertion, and stress. In a collapse scenario where you are hauling water, processing firewood, maintaining security, and operating under constant psychological pressure, your sodium loss accelerates dramatically. When sodium drops, your cells cannot maintain osmotic balance. You experience muscle cramps, cognitive impairment, irregular heartbeat, and eventually cardiac arrest. This is hyponatremia, and it kills people in survival situations who focus on hydration without electrolyte replacement. Salt also preserves food, enabling you to extend fresh foods when available. It creates brine solutions for pickling. It seasons food to maintain palatability and prevent appetite suppression. It provides iodine that prevents thyroid dysfunction when your diet becomes limited. Iodine deficiency causes goiter, metabolic slowdown, cognitive impairment, and developmental problems in children. Iodine deficiency causes goiter, metabolic slowdown, cognitive impairment, and developmental problems in children. It is one of the most common nutritional deficiencies worldwide, and it is completely preventable with iodized salt. The practical storage is dead simple. 10 pounds per person provides adequate salt for multiple years, including food preservation use. You store in airtight containers to prevent moisture absorption and clumping. And you ensure it is iodized because iodine is not naturally present in most diets when seafood is unavailable. But salt addresses minerals. It does not address vitamins. Which brings us to food number 6, dried seaweed and kelp. Specifically nori sheets, kombu, and wakame available at Asian grocery stores for $10 to $15 per pound. Stored in sealed containers with desiccant packs, dried seaweed lasts 5+ years, and it provides the broadest micronutrient profile of any single food source. Seaweed contains vitamin K, folate, calcium, magnesium, iron, and most critically, iodine in bioavailable forms. 1 sheet of nori provides more iodine than a teaspoon of iodized salt. Kelp provides alginates that bind heavy metals and support detoxification. Wakame provides fucoxanthin with metabolic benefits. This is where people dismiss information because it sounds exotic or unfamiliar, and that dismissal gets them killed. Seaweed is not exotic. It is one of the oldest human foods. Coastal populations have relied on it for millennia because it provides concentrated nutrition in minimal volume. Japanese, Korean, and Celtic diets traditionally included seaweed specifically because it prevented deficiency diseases in populations with limited agricultural diversity. You are not eating it because it is trendy. You are eating it because it provides micronutrients that are nearly impossible to obtain from land-based foods alone. The practical application is simple. 1 pound of mixed dried seaweed per person provides adequate supplementation for 6 months when used as seasoning and soup additions. You do not eat sheets of nori as meals. You crumble it into rice and beans. You make broth from kombu. You add wakame to soups. Small amounts provide massive nutritional impact without requiring you to develop a taste for seaweed as a primary food. But micronutrients mean nothing if you lack vitamin C. Which brings us to food number 7, and this is the one that saves you from scurvy. Dried rose hips, dried camu powder, or dried acerola cherry powder. These are vitamin C sources that remain stable in dried form for 2+ years. Rose hips provide 1,600 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. Camu provides 3,000 milligrams per 100 grams. These are concentrations 20 to 50 times higher than citrus fruits. 1 pound of dried vitamin C-rich foods provides adequate supplementation for 1 person for an entire year when consumed in small daily amounts. The chemistry is specific. Ascorbic acid is water-soluble and destroyed by heat, light, and oxidation. Fresh fruits lose vitamin C content within days of harvest. Freeze-dried meals lose most vitamin C during processing. But certain foods, when dried at low temperatures and stored in dark, airtight conditions, maintain vitamin C content for extended periods. Rose hips, camu, and acerola cherry are 3 of the most stable sources. You consume 1 tablespoon daily mixed into water or food. That provides 100+ milligrams of vitamin C, which prevents scurvy and supports collagen synthesis, immune function, and iron absorption. If you understood that vitamin C stability varies by source and processing method, you are smarter than 95% of preppers who think they can rely on multivitamins that degrade within a year of manufacture. But can you explain why vitamin C is critical for wound healing? Comment your answer. I respond to the most accurate explanations because I want you thinking about mechanisms, not just following instructions. Food number 8 is honey. Raw, unfiltered honey in glass jars. Honey is the only food that never spoils. Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs that is still edible. The reason is simple microbiology. Honey is hygroscopic, meaning it draws moisture out of its environment. Its water content is too low for bacteria to survive. It is acidic with pH around 4, which inhibits microbial growth. And it contains hydrogen peroxide produced by enzymes that bees add. Honey provides calories, primarily from simple sugars that require minimal digestion. It provides trace minerals. It has antimicrobial properties that make it useful for wound care. and it improves palatability of bland survival foods. The practical storage is effortless. Honey crystallizes over time, but remains perfectly edible. You warm it gently to reliquefy. You store in glass because plastic can leach over years. 5 pounds per person provides adequate sweetener and emergency calories for 6 months. You use it to make rice pudding. You add it to tea made from wild plants. You use it topically on wounds when medical supplies are exhausted. Multiple applications from a single stored item that never expires. Iodine deficiency causes goiter, metabolic slowdown, cognitive impairment, and developmental problems in children. It is one of the most common nutritional deficiencies worldwide, and it is completely preventable with iodized salt. The practical storage is dead simple. 10 pounds per person provides adequate salt for multiple years, including food preservation use. You store in airtight containers to prevent moisture absorption and clumping. And you ensure it is iodized because iodine is not naturally present in most diets when seafood is unavailable. But salt addresses minerals. It does not address vitamins. Which brings us to food number 6, dried seaweed and kelp. Specifically nori sheets, kombu, and wakame available at Asian grocery stores for $10 to $15 per pound. Stored in sealed containers with desiccant packs, dried seaweed lasts 5+ years, and it provides the broadest micronutrient profile of any single food source. Seaweed contains vitamin K, folate, calcium, magnesium, iron, and most critically, iodine in bioavailable forms. 1 sheet of nori provides more iodine than a teaspoon of iodized salt. Kelp provides alginates that bind heavy metals and support detoxification. Wakame provides fucoxanthin with metabolic benefits. This is where people dismiss information because it sounds exotic or unfamiliar, and that dismissal gets them killed. Seaweed is not exotic. It is one of the oldest human foods. Coastal populations have relied on it for millennia because it provides concentrated nutrition in minimal volume. Japanese, Korean, and Celtic diets traditionally included seaweed specifically because it prevented deficiency diseases in populations with limited agricultural diversity. You are not eating it because it is trendy. You are eating it because it provides micronutrients that are nearly impossible to obtain from land-based foods alone. The practical application is simple. 1 pound of mixed dried seaweed per person provides adequate supplementation for 6 months when used as seasoning and soup additions. You do not eat sheets of nori as meals. You crumble it into rice and beans. You make broth from kombu. You add wakame to soups. Small amounts provide massive nutritional impact without requiring you to develop a taste for seaweed as a primary food. But micronutrients mean nothing if you lack vitamin C, which brings us to food number 7. And this is the one that saves you from scurvy. Dried rose hips, dried camu powder, or dried acerola cherry powder. These are vitamin C sources that remain stable in dried form for 2+ years. Rose hips provide 1,600 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. Camu provides 3,000 milligrams per 100 grams. These are concentrations 20 to 50 times higher than citrus fruits. 1 pound of dried vitamin C-rich foods provides adequate supplementation for 1 person for an entire year when consumed in small daily amounts. The chemistry is specific. Ascorbic acid is water-soluble and destroyed by heat, light, and oxidation. Fresh fruits lose vitamin C content within days of harvest. Freeze-dried meals lose most vitamin C during processing. But certain foods, when dried at low temperatures and stored in dark, airtight conditions, maintain vitamin C content for extended periods. Rose hips, camu, and acerola cherry are 3 of the most stable sources. You consume 1 tablespoon daily mixed into water or food. That provides 100+ milligrams of vitamin C, which prevents scurvy and supports collagen synthesis, immune function, and iron absorption. If you understood that vitamin C stability varies by source and processing method, you are smarter than 95% of preppers who think they can rely on multivitamins that degrade within a year of manufacture. But can you explain why vitamin C is critical for wound healing? Comment your answer. I respond to the most accurate explanations because I want you thinking about mechanisms, not just following instructions. Food number 8 is honey. Raw, unfiltered honey in glass jars. Honey is the only food that never spoils. Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs that is still edible. The reason is simple microbiology. Honey is hygroscopic, meaning it draws moisture out of its environment. Its water content is too low for bacteria to survive. It is acidic with pH around 4, which inhibits microbial growth. And it contains hydrogen peroxide produced by enzymes that bees add. Honey provides calories, primarily from simple sugars that require minimal digestion. It provides trace minerals. It has antimicrobial properties that make it useful for wound care and improves palatability of bland survival foods. The practical storage is effortless. Honey crystallizes over time, but remains perfectly edible. You warm it gently to reliquefy. You store in glass because plastic can leach over years. 5 pounds per person provides adequate sweetener and emergency calories for 6 months. You use it to make rice pudding. You add it to tea made from wild plants. You use it topically on wounds when medical supplies are exhausted. Multiple applications from a single stored item that never expires. Now, let me synthesize these 11 foods into a complete system. White rice provides caloric base. Beans provide protein and fiber. Coconut oil provides fats. Nuts provide additional fats and vitamin E. Salt provides sodium and iodine. Seaweed provides broad-spectrum minerals. Rose hips or camu provide vitamin C. Honey provides simple sugars and antimicrobial properties. Canned fish provides animal protein, omega-3s, vitamin D, and B12. Powdered milk provides calcium, additional protein, and vitamin D. Nutritional yeast provides B-complex vitamins. Together, these 11 foods provide complete nutrition for extended periods without refrigeration, without electricity, without complex preparation. Total cost per person for 6 months is approximately $400. Total storage space is approximately 8 cubic feet. Compare that to commercial freeze-dried meals at $2,000 for the same time period with inferior nutrition and 10 times the storage space. The difference is dramatic, and the nutritional superiority is measurable. You have complete macronutrients. You have essential fatty acids. You have fat-soluble vitamins. You have water-soluble vitamins. You have major and trace minerals. You have fiber. You have the building blocks for sustained human health under stress. Real talk, how many of you have been focused on expensive freeze-dried meals while ignoring these fundamental foods? Drop a hand emoji if this describes you. You are not alone. The preparedness industry has conditioned us to believe that expensive equals effective and that technology improves on ancestral wisdom. Sometimes that is true. In food storage, it is almost always false. The foods that kept humans alive through historical collapses are the same foods that will keep you alive through future collapses. Not because they are traditional, because they work. Here is your action plan. You create a spreadsheet. You list these 11 foods. You calculate quantities per person multiplied by number of family members. You calculate storage containers needed. You calculate total cost. Then you implement in stages. Month 1, you buy rice, beans, and salt. Month 2, you add coconut oil, nuts, and honey. Month 3, you add seaweed, vitamin C sources, and canned fish. Month 4, you add powdered milk and nutritional yeast. By month 4, you have complete 6-month food security for a fraction of what commercial solutions cost. You also practice cooking with these ingredients now. You learn to make rice and beans that actually taste good. You experiment with seasoning combinations. You figure out portions and preferences while grocery stores are still open and you have alternatives. The time to discover that your family hates the texture of reconstituted milk is not 6 months into a crisis. The time to learn is now while mistakes have no consequences. And you rotate. Every 6 months, you cook a week of meals from your stockpile. You consume and replace. This maintains freshness, maintains familiarity, and prevents the psychological shock of eating only stored foods when crisis hits. You are not hoarding food you will never touch. You are building a dynamic storage system that integrates with normal life while providing security against disruption. Let me address the objections. I know you are thinking, what about variety? What about fresh foods? What about the psychological impact of restricted diet? Valid concerns. And here's the nuanced answer. This 11 food system is your foundation. It is what keeps you alive when nothing else is available. It is not aspirational eating. It is survival nutrition. When stores are open, when gardens are producing, when hunting and fishing are viable, you eat those things. You use your stockpile as insurance, not preference. But when those options disappear, you have foods that provide complete nutrition, while everyone else is developing deficiency diseases from incomplete stockpiles. The psychological component is real. Menu fatigue causes appetite suppression that leads to malnutrition even with food available. You combat this through seasoning variety. You stockpile dried herbs and spices. You learn to cook the same ingredients multiple ways. Rice becomes porridge, becomes fried rice, becomes rice cakes, becomes rice pudding. Beans become soup, become refried beans, become bean cakes, become hummus-style spreads. The ingredients are limited. The preparations are variable. This maintains engagement with eating, which maintains caloric intake. You also understand that survival is not about maintaining normal life. It is about maintaining life, period. Yes, eating rice and beans daily is monotonous. Yes, you will miss variety. Yes, there will be psychological discomfort. But those are first world problems. The alternative is watching your family develop scurvy because you spend your money on freeze-dried lasagna that was missing critical micronutrients. The alternative is trading your last valuable possessions for food because you did not prepare correctly. The alternative is malnutrition, disease, and death. Given those options, rice and beans with adequate micronutrient supplementation is not just acceptable, it is optimal. Now, let me give you the controversial truth that will make prepping forums explode. Most people preparing for a collapse will die anyway, not because they lack food, because they lack the psychological resilience to adapt to radical life changes. They will have full stomachs and give up because they cannot handle the loss of convenience, entertainment, and comfort. Survival is 10% resources and 90% mindset. The people who make it are not the ones with the biggest stockpiles. They are the ones who can accept harsh realities, adapt to limitations, and maintain purpose when everything feels hopeless. Your 11-food stockpile keeps your body functioning. Your mindset keeps you wanting to survive. Both are necessary. Neither is sufficient alone. Here is what that looks like practically. Month 3 of supply chain collapse. You're eating rice, beans, and canned fish. You are seasoning with salt, seaweed, and nutritional yeast. You are supplementing with nuts and honey. Your body is functioning well. No deficiency diseases. Adequate energy. But you are psychologically struggling with monotony, with loss of normal life, with uncertainty about the future. This is where mental resilience determines outcomes. You maintain routine. You find purpose in daily tasks. You create small comforts within limitations. You connect with family or group members. You remind yourself that this is temporary and that your preparation is working. The food keeps you physically capable of surviving. Your psychological tools keep you willing to continue. This is why I emphasize practice now, not just cooking practice. Psychological practice. You do 30-day challenges where you eat only from your stockpile. You experience the monotony in safe conditions. You develop coping strategies. You discover what helps maintain morale. Maybe it is music. Maybe it is games. Maybe it is projects. You identify these things before crisis. Then you ensure you have them available when it matters. Survival is holistic. Food is critical. It is not complete. Let me bring this to conclusion with the reality check you need. These 11 foods do not guarantee survival. They improve probability dramatically. They address the nutritional requirements that commercial solutions miss. They provide economic efficiency that allows you to prepare more comprehensively with limited resources. But they are not magic. You can still die from violence, accident, disease, or bad luck. What this system does is remove nutritional failure from your list of vulnerabilities. It takes one massive threat off the table, so you can focus energy on other survival requirements like security, water, shelter, and medical care. You now know more about survival nutrition than 99% of people spending money on preparedness. That is your advantage. Most people are buying products marketed to them. You are implementing evidence-based strategy, refined through historical analysis and nutritional science. Most people will panic when supply chains break. You will execute a plan you have already tested. Most people will develop deficiencies within months. You will maintain health for years if necessary. That difference is not minor. That difference is survival. Honest question. What is the one food from this list you are buying this week? Comment below. I read every single one. And if you think I am wrong about freeze-dried meals being nutritionally incomplete, good. Drop your counter-argument. Best comment gets pinned and a detailed response with sources. Because I want you thinking critically about this. I want you challenging assumptions, including mine. But I also want you basing decisions on evidence rather than marketing. If this video saved you from wasting thousands on inferior food storage, share it with one person who needs this information. Not for me, for them, because they deserve to know the truth before spending money on solutions that do not work. Stay nourished, stay resilient, or stay dependent on systems that will fail. Your choice. One more thing. See that progress bar? Not quite done yet. 99% leave before this final piece. The 1% who stay get the bonus most people miss. The single biggest mistake people make with food storage that destroys everything. Comment, inner circle, if you are still here. Welcome to the 1%. The mistake is storing food without storing the knowledge to use it. You have 200 pounds of beans, but you do not know how to cook them without electricity. You have rice, but you do not know how to prevent it from burning when cooking over fire. You have nutritional yeast, but you do not know proper dosing. Knowledge is more critical than supplies. The supplies without knowledge lead to waste, malnutrition, and failure. The knowledge without supplies can improvise solutions. Start learning now. Practice cooking with wood fire. Learn to make flatbreads from basic flour. Understand food combining for complete nutrition. The stockpile keeps you fed. The knowledge keeps you nourished. Both together keep you alive.